Last time we made an app that allows the user to select multiple folders and save them using bookmarks. It displays those bookmarks in a list, and the user can delete them from the list by swiping. Now let's make it a bit more interesting by showing the user the contents of the folder when they tap on it. And we'll show an icon depending on whether it's a folder or a file. First, let's make the view that will display the details of a folder. Make a new Swift UI view called detailView.swift that takes in a URL. Add a list with a navigation title. To show the navigation title in the preview, wrap Detail View in a navigation view in the previews. Change the navigation bar title display mode to inline. We need to get all the files in this directory, so let's make a file called filecontroller.swift with a function called getContentsOfDirectory. It takes in a URL and returns an array of URLs. To add this to the environment, go back to bookmark directories app.swift and add an instance of this class to the environment, just like we did with the bookmark controller earlier. Now, in detailView.swift, we can use the file controller by adding it as an environment object. To call the file controller's method every time this view loads, we can call it with onAppear. We can save the results of this in a state variable called URLs. Then you can show the actual files in the list. Now we can link to the detail view from contentview.swift. Instead of showing text in the list, use a navigation link. Now when you run the app and tap on a folder, it will show you the files and folders inside that folder. Nice. But before we call this done, I would like to add a little folder icon next to each folder and a document icon next to each document. If you look at the documentation for contents of a directory, it says that the keys parameter lets you specify what kind of information you want about each URL. That sounds exactly like what I want. It takes an array of URL resource keys. Looking at the page on URL resource keys, if you search for directory, you'll find a key called isDirectoryKey. So let's modify our getContentsOfDirectory method to return an array of tuples so that we have a URL and a Boolean telling us if it's a directory or not. In detailView.swift, change our state variable from URLs to items and change the type to match the return type from the function. And change the for each to show either a folder or a document icon next to each name. When you run the app, tap on the folder, we now have icons next to each item showing whether it's folder or a file.